Welcome back to another Inktober prompt. Today is day 23 and muddy is our prompt word. I'll have to apologize in advance, it's a little hard to edit everything out, but my neighbors are doing their laundry upstairs, so bear with me. So muddy wasn't too hard. I knew I wanted to have someone with mud on their shoes after a storm. Initially I was planning on having someone walk their dog in the rain and getting their rain boot caught in some mud. I originally grew up in Florida, and when I moved to North Carolina it felt so alien, and one of the biggest reasons was this red clay dirt. It was everywhere, and would stain everything, and after a good rain was super sticky. I remember being younger, walking around in dress shoes, and just getting them stuck in this mud. I've always hated this stuff, and that was the situation that popped into my head when I saw this prompt. I'm not really familiar with drawing animals, as you may have guessed from prompt 2, and I was a bit pressed for time, so I had to leave some details out of my original idea and take out the puppers, which was really sad because I feel like it just would have really added so much to the composition of the picture. I know it doesn't seem like much, but just having that little puppy would have added to the story, I guess, the illustration. Without it, she's just a girl running through the mud, losing her boot, but otherwise she would have been a girl walking her dog and then getting her boot caught in the mud. It just adds a little bit more. It would just bring more detail and personality to the character and the image itself. When I was originally sketching her out, I guess I just drew her a little too big, so I couldn't actually fit the poor puppy in the frame. And I had already drawn her out several times and wasted a lot of time getting her pose just right that I just couldn't afford to do the same for the dog. But I also didn't want to just squeeze him in there as an afterthought and feel lackluster about the composition. In an effort to bring more character to the girl, I tried to give her kind of a disgruntled, maybe annoyed expression. I actually really liked the way it came out. She's like, really? Maybe she's in a rush somewhere. I was going to have her holding some coffee, but I just couldn't work it in. I really liked the way her hands are and felt they worked best with her pose. Normally, I would spend a lot more time with the composition, and although I like the way this came out, I'm a little upset that the composition could have been better. Like, for instance, there's a lot of negative space behind her. I tried to add in some rain dripping off the leaves and some clouds clearing after the rain, or at least the suggestion of that sort of thing, because of the negative space. I also put some warm fluffy socks on her with little paw prints since I couldn't put the dog in the picture and I wanted to bring that back to the character. But then I also added a kitty clip to her hair, and I'm not really sure what her theme is supposed to be. Maybe she's just an animal lover. So while I'm on the subject of the warm fluffy socks, whenever I used to wear boots, I always made sure that I had those extra warm, soft, thick socks. My hands and feet are always cold, and wearing boots, regardless of it being because of winter or rain, didn't really feel like it kept my hands and feet warm. I also have small feet, and boots always made me feel like my feet were lost inside them, so fluffy warm socks made my feet feel cozy, and like the boot actually fit my foot. And I guess I kind of worked that into the illustration. I wasn't actually thinking about it, but now as I watch this back, I realize that I've always associated boots with warm, cozy socks. They just have to go together. As I get closer and closer to the end of Inktober, I'm unfortunately finding less and less time to add all the things that I want to each prompt. Which, on one hand, is actually a good sign. That's what I wanted to do with this Inktober. I wanted to get myself into the habit of planning out backgrounds with my composition, and even though I don't have time to add all the things that I would like to, it does seem to be getting my brain kind of used to thinking more detailed and in that direction, so to speak. Maybe I'm trying to look at this in a positive light, but I like to think I'm making some kind of progress. Normally, I do most of my drawings digitally, but I'll sketch them out first because I like that tactile feedback of pencil and paper when I'm inspired. It kind of makes me feel like there's nothing between me and getting this image out of my head and onto the paper. So I'm not unfamiliar with drawing traditionally. However, trying to fit things into a frame has been quite of a challenge. I realize that after a certain size, it becomes harder for me to draw the character just as fluid as I would normally. My wrist will give me some problems if I make things too small anyway, and I think that might have something to do with it. And that's probably the main reason why I started frame breaking these prompts in the first place. And this all harkens back to why I couldn't fit the dog into the frame with the girl this time. I would have had to draw her smaller, and so far I've just not been as satisfied with the prompts that had that type of composition. I guess on one hand it allows you to add detail elsewhere, but it also means the details have to be a lot smaller, and sometimes they can get lost when there's a lot of detail going on, no matter how big or small they are. I think she came out pretty cute, and I'm glad I'm making some kind of progress, even if that progress is just a mindset. Thanks so much for watching, and come back tomorrow for prompt 24, Chop. Later.